checking in on our anxiety, and our next guest says he experienced his first panic attack while in high school. He was only 15 years old, and those panic attacks continued into adulthood. And after experiencing one after a car accident at age 22, he embarked on a journey to understand his symptoms. This led him to a life-changing diagnosis he calls a sigh of relief. Now, Rockson is sharing his story, and his goal is to help other people break the stigma. Take a look.
Life, much like the sky, is a canvas of ever-changing hues and moods. Dark clouds may gather, heavy with the weight of impending storm, and the sun might seem like a distant memory. Thunder may even rumble, echoing in the turmoil of your heart. But remember, just as the sky transforms, so too can your journey.
Please welcome Tayo to our conversation. Nicole is still here. What an interesting life you've lived. You were born in Nigeria.
Yes.
You've lived in 5 or 6 different countries.
5 countries, 4 continents.
On paper, people would think, okay, this is a well-traveled kid who can adapt to all kinds of situations. That's on paper.
Yeah.
In real life, you experienced your first panic attack at 15.
That's correct.
What was going on at the time?
I mean, so I went to boarding school, and for any Nigerians, you know, that's part of the education system. And I was walking down this open area. We had an assembly hall, and all of a sudden, this open area felt closed, right? And then my heart started racing, and then my chest started tightening, and I just collapsed on the floor. And then all of a sudden, just people started crowding me, and I remember feeling this pain in my chest. I thought it was a heart attack.
And you're 15 thinking you're having a heart attack.
I am. And, you know, at the time, you know, I'm a tall man. I'm thinking, I look weak. Yeah, and everybody's coming around me, what do we do, what do we do? And then someone yelled, give him space, give him space. And then they rushed me to the nursing ward, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong, so they called my parents, who were 2 states away. And so they had to rush me to the hospital, to the cardiologist, and he said nothing was wrong with me.
And what does that feel like when you know physically you were on the ground, heart pounding, and then the doctor says, oh, but there's nothing wrong with it?
I felt shame and embarrassed because it's a boarding school, right? And if any Harry Potter fans, you're basically amongst yourselves all the time.
Yeah.
And so everybody knows you, and so you start hearing the whispers, that's that kid that fall down.
Right, and it's a competitive environment
Very
that you're in academically.
Academically, especially, and there's all the stereotypes about lawyer, doctor, engineer, or failure in Nigeria, and I was like, oh, God, here's another thing to my situation. But yeah, I felt that shame, especially because I didn't know what was happening, and I couldn't come back and tell them what was wrong. So
you start to just quietly deal with it, and then in your 20s, you have a car accident.
I do. I was living in Virginia at the time, and I was, you know, driving my Toyota Camry, my burgundy Toyota Camry. Oh, burgundy. And I got to the part where the road merges into the highway, right? And then, you know, so I make my turn, and then this car suddenly cuts my lane into half. And so I'm swerving out of the way so I don't get hit. I smash into the left guardrail, boom, right guardrail, boom, 1 car, 2 cars. And I hit the left guardrail again, and the car lifts up. I think I'm about to flip over the bridge, but, you know, adrenaline kicks in. So I kick through the door, and I somehow managed to get out of the car, and I'm in the middle of the highway, and zoom, 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 car's totaled, nothing happens to me. And I somehow managed to, you know, call work and say I can't be there, and then I pick up my replacement car. And as soon as I lay on bed that day, I start having these flashbacks.
Wow.
And I'm freaking out, you know, and I'm like, just laying down, I'm having these flashbacks. And then it kept happening. I would drive to work, and the part where I got the accident, I'll start tensing up.
Nicole, what was his body doing from what you've studied?
So it's going into autonomic arousal. And when we go into autonomic arousal, the body is mobilizing stress hormone like cortisol and adrenaline. And it's trying to free us. It's trying to help us either fight to get out or to flight or run away.
Yeah.
And what's really scary about that experience is that you couldn't free yourself from it. There is a lack of power.
Yeah.
And so the brain will memorize that. It'll store it away, so then later in life, if it sees anything that reminds it of that, it's going to try to do that again. It's going to try to make you free.
It's interesting, so the brain memorizes that feeling of lack of control in that accident, and then it's like it's on tape.
Yes.
And it just continues.
Yes.
You found ways to cope. What was your treatment process like?
Well, after that, I figured I needed to find out what was wrong with me, and so I went to the University of Google and YouTube. I was like, what happens?
That's where you find your best information, Tayo.
Yeah, I mean, what happens when you have a car accident?
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of people talking about this same experience, having car accidents. I read, and then I was like, oh, this is a panic attack. These are anxiety-induced panic attacks. And then it just made me look back at all the moments I had suffered in silence. Because even since I was 15, I used to have those regular panic attacks that I would just deal with, and I would just be holding things tightly or squeezing something. And then I started realizing, okay, you know, working out was something I already did, but making sure I did that intentionally, catching my breath, counting my breath, being present to that, and intentional pacing back and forth for me. And you know,
Intentional pacing, what is that?
Oh, so I would just, you know, stand up and go this direction, this direction, this direction, just back and forth, and it just I'm going here, I'm going here, I'm going here, because I could feel my feet on the floor, and I know I'm doing that. And for some reason, it just calms me down.
So you found ways to control your body.
Yes.
Journaling became a part of your routine.
I'm a writer, so I've been writing since I was a kid, because, you know, when you said I moved around a lot, one of the big things when you move around a lot is trying to fit in. And so I used to write about the environments I was in, you know, who's doing well or who's whatever popular, or who I need to make sure I'm making sure I'm fitting in. And so I would just write my thoughts as well.
So that all made you feel like you had some control. So
Yes.
you're listening to your body and you are taking some control over what's happening. In the book, Nicole, you have a daily habit that helps stop the anxiety from going red light. You have an example of one that Tayo has used. Walk us through that.
I call it the 3-3-3 habit, and it's nice because it's easy to remember.
Okay.
And you did some of this. So we're trying to get ourselves out of our emotional reactive brain and into the body. And so look at 3 things that you can see.
So name 3 things you can see when you're feeling your body tick up. So that it means just look out at anything and say, I see a beautiful pink dress and a lovely lady with braids on. I see this beautiful top on this lady here. I see my name here. Is that naming 3 things I can see?
Exactly.
That simple?
It brings you into the moment.
It brings us into the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you name 3 things that you can hear.
Okay.
So I hear the car, I hear a bird, I hear the leaves rustling. Brings you into the present moment and not back into that car accident.
Move 3 parts of your body.
3 parts
That's
of your
with the
body.
pacing.
And you're
Yes.
doing that, you're pacing.
No, and she's right. What I used to do would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it'd be 5 things you could see, 4 things you could smell, you know, 3 things you could touch. I mean,
Yeah,
all
I
that
love that
kind of
because
stuff.
with my son, we do the hand and
Yeah.
we trace the finger when he's feeling a little anxious. We do the finger trace. We learned, shout out to his preschool because I didn't know this. And then when we're feeling, we do a lemon squeeze.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we call it the lemon squeeze at our house when he's feeling anxious because my son gets very nervous meeting new people. Once he meets you, good luck. But the initial meeting, he has that fight or flight, and I see it sometimes with him.
Yeah.
And we'll take a second and we breathe, and so you breathe in and out with your finger. And that was something that we learned from his school. It is fascinating when you learn to listen to your body, especially early on, the things that we will need later.
Yeah.
At 15, you didn't know, but now you are feeling what? How do you describe your status now?
Well, I mean, I have generalized anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And so I feel good. I have the right coping mechanisms, but it was through therapy, you know. And it was, you know, around the time I was 30, I'd written my first book. I was feeling well, but I saw earlier a lot of people with depression also have anxiety. I was feeling
So you
this
got your
feeling.
diagnosis, you
Yeah.
got support.
Yes.
And how is life now?
Life is good.
Life is good.
Life is good.
I like
Life
that.
is better.
Nothing is perfect,
No.
but that you can say that it's good.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.